minute. Okay, looks like we're ready to go. I'm going to start the recording. Have a good evening, everyone.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 28th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. This is a special meeting and is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with State of California Executive Order number 29-20, dated March 17th, 2020. We are conducting the meeting using the Zoom platform and streaming it live on the city website and broadcasting on Comcast Channel 15, as well as via the city YouTube channel. Public members had the opportunity to submit emails to city staff. A report of all written comments was distributed to Planning Commission members via email and posted to the city's website under documents received after published agenda. And with that, Ms. Chan, would you please take roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Commissioner Ali Sullivan.
Hi, everyone. Present.
Commissioner Bonilla.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldstein.
Here.
Commissioner Lowe.
Good evening. Here.
Commissioner Okenda.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Chair Roche.
Here.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the public comment section. The public comment section provides an opportunity to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda. The Planning Commission welcomes your comments and requests that speakers present their remarks in a respectful manner. Speakers wishing to address the Planning Commission should limit their comments to 3 minutes. And now, if Ms. Chan can moderate the public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. If you wish to speak and you're using the Zoom application, please click the raise hand button. If you are dialing in, press *9 to raise your hand on the phone and use *6 to unmute yourself when called to speak. If you are streaming the meeting through Zoom on your computer, but dialing in via phone, please mute yourself so that there is no feedback sound during the meeting. If there is disruptive feedback or excessive noise during the meeting, your audio will be disabled. Chair, we have 2 attendees, but no one has raised their hands so far.
Yeah, hopefully they're probably waiting, hopefully for one of the agenda items. So just wait 1 second here. Okay. All right, then let us close the public comment section of the meeting. And hopefully with those attendees, there'll be another public comment section for the actual agenda item. So hold on there. Okay, so we'll end the public comment section and move on to our first agenda item. The first agenda item is a proposed demolition of an existing 74,750 square foot commercial building and construction of a new 47 lot single family residential subdivision on a 5.4 acre site located at 1000 La Playa Drive, requiring approval of general plan amendment, rezone and vesting tentative tract map, application number 202004457, and approval of a mitigated negative declaration with mitigation monitoring and reporting plan prepared for the project in accordance with the requirements of CEQA. The applicant, D.R. Horton Bay, and owner, Hayward LLC. And with that, do we have a staff report?
We do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, commissioners and members of the audience. I'm Steve Kowalski, Associate Planner, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now because I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share. Can you tell me if you can see this title slide? It says La Playa Commons.
Yep, we can see it.
Great, thank you. Okay, this is an application to, Okay, this is an application to redevelop the property at 1000 La Playa Drive from a commercial use to a new 47-unit single-family residential development. The project requires approval of a general plan amendment, to change the land use designation of the property from retail and office commercial to medium density residential, a rezoning from neighborhood commercial district to planned development district, and a vesting tentative tract map. All general plan amendments and rezones ultimately require approval by the City Council. Therefore, tonight, the Planning Commission is being asked to make a recommendation on the project to the Council. The subject property is a 5.4 acre parcel located at the southwest corner of the intersection of La Playa Drive and Calaroga Avenue, directly across the street from Southland Mall. It contains a vacant 74,540 square foot commercial building previously occupied by the Burlington Coat Factory, 18 existing trees, and a large paved parking lot. The site is bordered by a single-family residential neighborhood to the south and east, and commercial uses and a religious facility to the west and north, and is also located within Hayward Executive Airport, safety zones 2 and 6. The site was originally developed as an office building back in 1968. It remained occupied by various office uses until 1992, when it was converted to a retail use by the Burlington Coat Factory. Burlington eventually closed the store in 2020. Prior to its closure, the applicant began preparing conceptual plans for the site and approached the Council Economic Development Committee in December 2019 with a 78-unit concept that featured a mix of 2- and 3-story units. The CEDC was generally supportive of the proposal to convert the site from commercial to residential, but directed the applicant to include affordable units on the site and to seek feedback from the adjacent property owners before proceeding further with any plans. The applicant conducted outreach with the adjoining neighbors and ultimately came up with the current 47-unit plan earlier this year. The Airport Land Use Commission reviewed the project for conformance to the Hayward Executive Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, which was required because the site was located in an airport safety zone, and approved it on June 16th, thereby enabling the project to move forward with the city's entitlement process. The applicant is proposing to raise the site, raise meaning demolish the site, and construct 47 new 2-story single-family homes on lots ranging in size from approximately 3,000 to 6,000 square feet. The homes range in size from about 1,550 square feet to 2,100 square feet and contain 3 to 4 bedrooms and 2-car garages each. All of the homes will be 100% electric and have solar roofs and electric vehicle-ready garages in order to comply with the city's REACH code. To comply with the Affordable Housing Ordinance, the applicant is proposing to provide 4 on-site units that will be affordable to moderate income households and pay in lieu fees for the remaining 0.7 fractional unit. 44 of the homes would be accessed by a new looped private street connecting to La Playa Drive, and the remaining 3 homes would be accessed by Calaroga Avenue. The subdivision includes a 0.3 acre open space with a small outdoor gathering area and bioretention facility, and an emergency vehicle access easement connecting the private street to Calaroga that would provide a second ingress-egress route for emergency vehicles. The landscape plans for the project feature 162 total new trees to be planted throughout the development, including 13 new street trees along La Playa and 3 new street trees along Calaroga. This slide just shows you the site plan that's currently being proposed. Street A is the new looped private street that would connect out to La Playa Drive, and 44 of the 47 homes would be accessed via this street as well as via 3 small private courts. The remaining 3 homes are out here, and they will face Calaroga Avenue to match the existing development pattern of the other homes along that street. This green area here is the 0.3 acre open space parcel. the small picnic area, outdoor seating area is here. And there's a large bioretention facility in this area. And this light green strip here is the emergency vehicle access easement. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site to a planned development in order to create a subdivision with smaller lots having smaller than average yards in order to maximize the development potential of the property while still providing a housing product type and site layout that are generally compatible with the character of the surrounding residential neighborhood to the south and east. As this table shows, most of the proposed lots do not meet one or more applicable development standards for a new single-family subdivision. By proposing a PD, the applicant can, by proposing a planned development, which I'll refer to as PD for short from here on out, the applicant can request approval of exceptions to the applicable development standards. However, in doing so, the applicant must provide specific amenities or features that exceed the minimum required standards as compensation for the requested exceptions. I'll discuss the applicant's proposed forms of compensation shortly. In the meantime, I realize there's a lot of data on this slide, but the main thing to note is that many of the proposed lots do not comply with some of the applicable standards and that exceptions are needed for the proposed plan to be feasible. Staff reviewed the proposal for conformance to the general plan and identified a number of goals and policies that it would be consistent with. Specifically, the project would be consistent with land use policy LU 1.4 by redeveloping a vacant and outdated site with a new residential use that will help revitalize the area around the perimeter of the mall. It would provide eyes on the street, consistent with community health and quality of life policy, HQL 5.3, by orienting the outer homes of the project toward La Playa and Calaroga, rather than having them side along or back up to those two streets. And it would be consistent with several goals and policies of the housing element by providing on-site for sale units affordable to moderate income households, increasing the variety of housing types in the area by introducing smaller lots with smaller two-story floor plans for home buyers seeking more affordable single-family ownership opportunities, and by locating new housing close to shopping, services, and major transportation corridors, including Hesperian Boulevard, Interstate 880, and Highway 92. Now, this slide discusses the forms of compensation that the applicant is proposing tonight in exchange for approval of the requested exceptions to the standards for new single-family residential development. Hayward Municipal Code Section 10.1.2535F states that exceptions to development standards proposed as part of a PD rezone are adequately offset or compensated for by providing functional facilities, amenities, not otherwise facilities or amenities not otherwise required or exceeding required standards. In this case, as an on-site amenity, the applicant is proposing to plant 36-inch box trees for all street trees throughout the project, when 24-inch box is the minimum requirement, and also to plant several 48-inch box trees within the bioretention area on the open space parcel as well. This upsizing of trees will provide an immediate aesthetic benefit through the larger canopies that the trees will feature at the time of their planting. As a community-wide benefit, the applicant would pay significantly higher affordable housing in lieu fees to the city by rounding up the fractional 0.7 unit it is obligated to pay fees for to one whole unit. And finally, as another community-wide benefit, the applicant would make a $5,000 cash donation to assist the city with its planned public art installation project at Heritage Plaza. Almost done, folks. A draft mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project, which determined that it could have potentially significant environmental impacts to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology, noise, and transportation. However, the mitigated negative declaration identified mitigation measures that would reduce all impacts to less than significant levels. And these measures have been included as conditions of approval on the project. The mitigated neg deck was circulated for public comment in accordance with SEQA requirements, but no comments were received during the public comment period. The applicant has worked closely with staff and conducted considerable public outreach throughout the application process, and staff feels that the project is consistent with the general plan, as stated in this presentation earlier, and that the compensation being proposed in exchange for the PD rezoning request is reasonable and appropriate. Therefore, tonight, staff is recommending that the commission recommend council approve the requested general plan amendment, rezone and vesting tentative tract map, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting plan for the project based on the findings and subject to the conditions attached to the staff report. And that includes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And Steve, does the is the applicant here, and did they want to say anything this evening?
I believe the applicant, yes, they are here. And they do have a presentation as well.
Okay, great.
We also have a couple of staff members here. We have Scott Wickstrom, who is one of our civil engineers, development services, and we have Stephen Cheng, who's our transportation planner.
Okay.
And we also have the SEQA consultant from David J. Powers as well to answer any questions.
So it sounds like there's going to be everyone to answer.
All hands on deck.
Yes, yeah. Great. Okay. Yes, let's see, is it Chris Zavelis? Are you going to give a presentation for the? Oh, great.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good evening to planning commissioners, and Steve, thanks for the very, very complete staff report. Appreciate it. We've been at this for about coming up on 2 years here, and we're happy to finally get to planning commission and hopefully council in the not too distant future. My name is Chris Zavelis, and I'm with D.R. Horton. A few people to introduce. I have Avery Jones, who is the project manager, who is on, and we're going to do a very, very brief presentation. Steve covered all the most of the relevant points, so the high level ones. And then we have a couple members of our consulting team, the architects, the engineers, and our landscape architect as well on standby if there are other questions that they need to jump in on. So if we could start our presentation, we'll go through our short slide deck quickly.
Julie, do you have that presentation, or would you like me to share?
I don't have it. No, I don't know who's sharing that. Yeah,
okay. I can share it.
Okay. And I'm not sure who gives, hopefully you have sharing ability, because I was definitely not part of that discussion.
Okay. 1 second. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we see it.
Great.
Great. Avery, thank you. Thanks for running the technical end. So 1000 La Playa Drive in Hayward, across from Southland Mall, project we're calling La Playa Commons. Avery, if you'll advance the slide. D.R. Horton, we're the large home builder. We've got a bunch of projects. This is one of 4 we have in Hayward right now, among other communities in the surrounding area. Our office is in Pleasanton, but we cover all of sort of the entire larger Bay Area, and we have building homes in 30 states, essentially. We've got a lot of experience. The site, was Burlington Coat Factory, as Steve mentioned, for many years. They closed in winter of 2020. They moved, and so the site has been vacant. And we did significant public outreach, and many of the neighbors were not happy with sort of the emptiness of the building and the bit of an attractive nuisance that it was becoming, with people hanging out in the parking lot. It has since been fenced, and that much of that has been resolved. It's a 73,000 square foot building and an older one that was built many decades ago. Site plan, as you've seen it, it's 47 units. One thing I wanted to add is that we took our initial site plan that was much higher density to a joint meeting of the Airport Land Use Commission and city planning staff. And it was very clear that the higher densities that we initially got positive response from the CEDC were going to be very difficult with the airport. Which is why we have redone the site plan a number of times and are now at 47 homes to be harmonious and compatible with the neighborhood around it. We've done, at my last count, 26 different site plans. So we've really studied, what would fit on this site and what would be compatible with the airport zone. And with that, I'm going to let Avery tell you a little bit about the details of some of the things that we're doing on site.
Yes, so as Steve mentioned, we are contributing $5,000 to the heritage elements and art pieces at Heritage Plaza so that they can get those art pieces completed. Additionally, we will be including 36-inch box trees along La Playa Drive, Calaroga Avenue, and all the various courts on site, including 162 new trees. We also have this bioretention walking path area. It's going to be a great connection to the surrounding neighborhood. It's a place that neighbors can congregate. It's also just a nice green space added to the project. Here is a streetscape, what the project will look like from La Playa Drive and Calaroga. Calaroga Avenue, this homes will be set just like how the existing homes are along the street. The homes along La Playa Drive will have side entrances so that their front doors face La Playa Drive, more eyes on the street for neighborhood watch and just neighborhood community. We have 3 different plans with 3 different elevations. You can see those here, and I will talk a little bit more about architecture in the next slide. So here we have our plan 1 is 1,549 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Our plan 2 is 1,810 square feet. It's 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. And our plan 3 is a 1,964 square foot home. There's 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. And we do like to highlight that there is a bedroom down that can be used as an in-law unit or for guests or for anyone that may be staying with you. Here we are highlighting where our affordable housing units will be on site. There's 4 that we will be building on site. 2 are plan 1s and 2 are plan 2s. We are also paying fees for 1 whole unit. We are required to pay fees on 0.7 units. We're exceeding requirements by 0.3 units. And with that, questions or comments?
Great, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Okay, so let's move on to commissioner questions. This is a time for the commissioners to ask questions of the applicant and city staff. Of course, reserving your opinions and your comments for after we hear from the public. And I apologize because I did not watch whose hands went up first. So, there is, wait, before I call on commissioners, there was one point of business I wanted to get out of the way with staff. I understand we're not hearing item number 2, and I wanted to make that clear publicly in case anybody's waiting online for item number 2. Is that correct, Jeremy?
That is correct. That item number 2, which is the project at the Berkeley Farms redevelopment site, is requested to be continued by the commission to the November 18th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to hear that because the official published agenda still had that item. So if anyone's hanging on the line for item number 2, I apologize. We will be hearing that item in November. Sorry, was it November 18th? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to commissioner questions. I'm just going to go at the top of the list because I didn't see where everyone's hands went up. So Commissioner Bonilla, why don't you go ahead first?
Thank you. I just have a few quick questions. First, I the question that my initial question was, why did we reduce from 78 to 47? But it sounds like that was a requirement related to airport zoning. So thank you for that. As it relates to the 4 affordable units that you're building on site, I appreciate, you making the additional investment in the in lieu fee for an additional unit. But one of the things that the Council Economic Development Committee, really was pushing was having on-site, included instead of in lieu fees. So is there any way to reconsider that 5th unit, instead of paying all those in lieu fees, just to create a 5th unit on site that's affordable?
We certainly could consider that. I guess that. Yeah. I guess the ordinance is written right now, states that, paying the in lieu fees is still allowed per the ordinance. And we felt that building the 4 and feeing out for the fractional, initially we were feeing out at 0.7 and we rounded that up per staff's request. We'd love to stick to that if possible, but, if the additional unit really is the deciding point, certainly it's something we have to consider.
Got it. I think it's really important to, to have it built in, but I would love to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say too. And then I guess the question for staff is, is the compensation proposal comparable to other projects that have submitted similar proposals? It just seems a bit light for all of the accommodations we're being asked to make.
I can just weigh in here that, we've done quite a few PD rezonings over the years. We haven't done a lot of general plan amendments. General plan amendments are limited to 4 per calendar year for each city. The magnitude of the community benefit in exchange for the reduction of the development standards varies pretty significantly from different projects. I know Sohey, they did a pretty large open space area for that development. I know Lincoln Landing, when they came in, they dedicated a nice easement pathway along the Back Creek area there on the backside of the site. So other projects have dedicated some, greenway area or open space area for the community benefit. And so it really does vary from project to project.
But Jeremy, you think that this is relatively comparable compared to what the other projects that, have been, that where we approved other projects with these compensation proposals?
We haven't, it's I don't want to say like for like in terms of compensation. I mean, obviously the order of magnitude of what would be a community benefit obviously is going to be different for each project. Again, I would just say that those other projects that I referenced did not include a general plan amendment. And so I think that kind of heightens the community, benefit component here for this project more probably than others. But it is kind of in line with that. And it's up to the discretion of the commission and the council on whether they feel that is a suitable community benefit in exchange for the development relief.
Thank you, Jeremy. And then my final question for now is, with this one road in and one road out, is there, what do our traffic engineers, think about that? It just seems like that would cause a lot of congestion.
Good evening, Commissioner. I can answer that question for you. The project is actually expected to generate only 47 p.m. peak hour trips. That's the worst hour of the day. So that's less than 1 vehicle per minute. So that's the trip generation that's expected for this project.
All right, thank you.
And we believe that it can handle the capacity.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Goldstein.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Roche. I need some help, please, understanding I think the statement was the airport district requirements made it difficult to go to the highest density that you considered, the 74 units. When you say they were making it difficult, do you mean that they were putting requirements on there you didn't like, or were they actually saying, we're really not going to approve this?
Commissioner Goldstein, I'll take that question if it's for me. Essentially, when we went in front of the two groups, they said your project will not get our support from the Airport Land Use Commission as presented. It's too dense. And Hayward Planning was involved as well. And they said, you need to correspond to the density of all the surrounding homes in the existing neighborhood if you're going to get us on board as well. We were told there was not a path forward if we stayed at that high density.
Okay. And I recall a few years back, we had a conversation with the airport district, and there were requirements of housing density for safety reasons. And that was my recollection, that they weren't really favorable towards any kind of high density in the flight path, but some areas a little bit further away, they would approve it. So apparently right at that location you have, there were some concerns about density there. Did they happen to indicate to you what the maximum density would be?
The maximum density that they indicated would be acceptable was comparable to the Southgate neighborhood behind us. We initially came in with 3-story townhomes attached, and they didn't like the height. We then switched to 2-story attached units, duets, if you will. And that also didn't work because it was too much density of people living too close together. So that site plan, that project didn't work either until we finally got to simply what we're looking at now, which is single family homes.
Okay. All right. So my understanding is correct then, that it's really primarily safety issues related to the operation of the airport that really kind of dictates the number of units that we're going to be allowed to see built there. All right. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Okenda.
Hi. Thank you. As always, Ray and I think on the same wavelength over here. I just want to say I had the opportunity to talk to Chris and Avery over a coffee and, discuss the project before. So I don't think that should require me to recuse myself. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to just ask for clarity. It's my only question for now. Because this is a PD and because we're looking for additional amendments, the Housing Accountability Act does not apply to this infill development. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, that's my only question.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ellie Sullivan.
Thank you. So I wanted to discuss the public housing element here. A couple of questions, I guess. First off, for city staff. Is there a preference in the allocation of in lieu versus, I guess, in kind or actual units when it comes to project developments of this type? And do you typically see all, or do you see a split like this in similar housing projects?
Jeremy, you want to take that one too?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a stab at it. So a lot of the projects that we see typically come through, a lot of the smaller ones that have the option to fee out or to provide the units. From an administrative standpoint, smaller projects, if they're only providing 1 or 2 units, really provide a disproportionate burden on the developer as well as the city to be able to market and administer that program for just a couple of units. So typically a lot of the smaller projects, we usually prefer the fee to fee out because those actually help seed and provide more additional funding for affordable projects down the road that could help leverage some of the affordable housing developments that are coming into the city. Larger projects, however, that are providing a substantial number of units do actually provide additional opportunities for providing the actual units. And so, there was, when we last adopted the update to our affordable housing ordinance, we created that matrix and that threshold. I think it was 50 was the total number of units with the intent that, you really wanted to provide kind of that balance. And if the project was small enough, it really was not, it didn't make a lot of sense to be able to provide the unit, it would make more sense to actually obtain the fee and actually leverage those monies against another affordable project. So this is a case where they are large enough to be able to provide, more than just 1 or 2 units, but they're also, kind of on the cusp of, trying to fee out that fractional amount. And either way, I don't know that staff has a particular position on that.
Got it. Okay. For Mr. Zabalos, question, based on, I guess, your or DR Horton's altruism, you've added a 0.3 or that last sort of incremental, that 0.3 unit in lieu fee to the city. What's the value of that 0.3 increase?
Yeah, sure. And maybe I'll go back and, the feeing out is always so much easier for us. And I say that from a financial perspective, because for a 2,000-foot home, feeing out at $20 a foot is 40 grand. And so the math on that is that we end up selling that home so much less, that the 40,000 is significantly less by many magnitudes on what building the house does. But we're pretty committed to building on site, and we seem to be doing it at almost all of our projects because we realize it allows people to get into homes on our property. And we're selling them the same homes that we're selling to the market rate ones. That was a long answer, and that was a long response. I haven't answered your question. The 0.3 is basically about $12 to $15, and I'm sorry for the long answer on that. So it's about $12,000 to $15,000. Excuse me.
12 to 15K. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so what's the value per unit so that total unit then is what? I can't do math here. Let's do some math. What would the total value of that unit that you're giving to the city be?
Yeah. So I guess, if a market rate unit here is going to sell for $800,000 to market rate buyer, we would end up selling that unit somewhere around $400,000. So that's a $400,000 reduction in price. So it's 10 times the amount of just paying the fee.
Understood. So the fee that you're paying then, you're setting aside 4 physical houses, and then you are required to pay what, $35,000 or $35,000 in fees, and you've added on that incremental, so you're paying what, $40,000 now?
That's about right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What I'd like to see, and my strong preference here would be to put an additional family into that neighborhood, as opposed to, additional funds going into the city's pot. And so my preference would be to see a 5th unit for affordable housing on site. We can discuss that further. It sounds like others feel the same way. The other question I have for you, so there's a lot of statistics here that are making this look like you guys are doing some amazing stuff with public health or with affordable housing here. It says 21% of the affordable housing in lieu fee for the project. Basically, everything that you're supposed to put, you're saying 21% of that is in lieu fees, and the other 79% are physical houses. Is that correct?
I would defer to staff. I think it's their calculation. Our proposal is that we're building 4 and feeing out on the additional, the 5th.
I'm curious because, and again, in the staff presentation as well, it's touted that there's a 42% increase in affordable housing in lieu fees, as if the developer is going way above and beyond. But it doesn't, I don't think that's in fact the case. So I'm curious what we mean when we're saying that the developer is paying a 42% increase in affordable housing in lieu fees. Aren't they just paying what they're supposed to pay?
That was in the staff presentation, so I defer to them. But I think what they're referencing is that we were proposing to pay the 0.7, and we're paying the additional 30%, if you will. So I'm not sure where that 42% came in.
Okay, 42% sounds a lot better than an additional $12,000. So, all right, those are all of my comments for the moment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. So since this is not a multi-family project, are we allowed to comment on architectural style and other items that are subjective in nature?
Jeremy, are you there to?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. It's a discretionary.
Yeah, Under an SB 330 residential project, where you're limited to only identifying objective criteria, that's for projects that align with the city's zoning and general plan. In this case, this project is not aligning with the city's zoning and general plan. So you can make any recommendations or suggestions that you would like.
Thank you. How did we arrive at the architectures that I see, the Spanish Mediterranean and traditional? How did we get to this place? And if that's not an easy answer, I'd love to hear the architect's theory of the design.
Jeremy, can you speak to that? I'll confess, I took over this project about 2 months ago, and I don't have the full background. Maybe it is best to have the architect or Mr. Zabalos.
Sure.
Speak to that.
Yeah, we'll let the applicant respond to that on their designs.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We submitted designs, pretty early in the process when we made our first submittal. We got feedback from staff on, additional architecture that that would need to be added. And so we made several revisions. We did 4 submittals on our tentative map package. Much of the revision came through on the homes that front La Playa. Trying to create a walking neighborhood there. We turned all the front doors and created entries off the front, and with the desire not to have garages backing up onto La Playa because of the width of that street and I guess the speed. So we turned the garages inwards, but the front doors are on La Playa. So that's how the architecture came about, and our architect from OAG is on the call, and she certainly can chime in if you would like more information.
So I just love to understand. I appreciate what you said about the side openings. I think that's a great idea. When I look at the units with the garage doors and the front doors seem to get lost in the mass of the house along the front, and I'm just curious about like the theory of how these house elevations came about.
Sure. Nancy, do you want, Nancy Nelson from OAG, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of our architectural process and how we came up with these elevations?
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Okay, excellent.
Yes, we can hear you, Nancy. Go ahead.
Yeah, as far as the themes and the styles, which aren't really what I hear you asking about, but these are very classic California styles. When we come in to infill in existing neighborhoods, kind of the same kinds of forms of the projects surrounding kind of guide us as far as theme. And as far as the houses being garage dominant, sadly, that was the effect of when adding the car to architecture and losing alley loaded. To keep houses from being garage dominant, you really need an alley loaded entrance. And that takes up so much land. And I have to say, I'm so impressed at your commission that you are pressing for more housing, that you fully understand the social and economic problems of our housing shortage. So if to get the garage off the front of the house requires alleys at the back of the house, which it takes up an awful lot of land. So it's a very, very expensive proposition that would take away many more houses if you had that kind of configuration. And also with trying to keep compact footprints to, again, maximize the number of houses that we could get on the lot in this very compact, but, this motor court format really is well received by people living in these kinds of communities, because you have a lot of intimacy with your neighbors and there's a lot of privacy by the courts. So there's no question, just based on the width of the house, the garages seem dominant. And we used color, and I wonder if maybe we erred here, that we sometimes accent the garage door with a darker color. And maybe that's making them appear more dominant than they would if our color selection was different. In more real classic forms of architecture like this, we really do rely on color. Color is actually as important as the constructed elements of the building as far as how projects are perceived. So we have a very rich color palette with different levels of depth of body colors and different, vibrant accent colors. So we are relying on color a lot to carry the project. And if you notice, we varied the roof plans of whether the ridge is running right to left or front to back between the houses. Plan 1, the ridge runs right to left. Plan 2, it runs front to back. And Plan 3 is a mix of roof types. So you get within the neighborhood, you get a lot of what they call roof bounce or variety in the roof plane that makes the streetscapes interesting by varying the roof plans. But yet still, we can't have a lot of jogs because we need to provide enough contiguous roof area to accommodate the solar arrays. As you know, we're required to put solar to offset the electrical use of the house. So on smaller product type like this, we need fairly simple roof plans to accommodate the solar panels. So I don't know if that kind of answered your question, but if you...
I just have two simple questions for you.
Sure.
So when I look at the front of the house, is there any design options that you could implement that were not color that potentially could either A, draw my attention more to the front door, or B, it appears that these are all going to be solid garage doors. Could the garage doors be something that's more enhanced, maybe something with glass or something that's a little more fun to make the front of the house a little less imposing?
Yeah, I will, as far as the latter is the easier of the two, we could ask D.R. Horton about that because we try to give cover to the front doors and provide front porch to provide some sense of intimacy as you come off the street and not just have if you bring the doors forward, you don't have that covered porch element, which is highly desirable. But I'll let Chris and Avery speak to if they're interested in putting glazing or windows in the top panels of the garage doors or doing a different style of garage door. Or like I said, we can look at painting them the more subtle body colors or the trim colors if the door is too prominent because of color, which I think might be part of the problem as I look at this.
So just to add a few things, Commissioner Stevens, on those garage doors, there's a few things we can do. We have been recessing the garage doors back into sort of the frame. We've done that. It gives a little relief to the front door. Color is also a great way, as Nancy mentioned, to sort of minimize the door. Putting windows is an option. We always think about the security of people. Do they want glass? They want doors, windows in their doors. Are they as secure? But it's certainly an option. We've done it before, but we're obviously not showing them here. So I think all three of those things can be used. And sometimes, when we put glass windows in the doors, we've not put them in every single one to vary the garage doors. As you look down the street, there are differences in the doors.
Thank you for your responses. I appreciate your time.
Certainly.
Thank you. Excuse me, Commissioner Lowe.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentations. For our staff, I was in my notes, I just want to make sure I'm right. In my notes, I have that the type of housing that we need most right now, that we're most lacking, is moderate as opposed to low or very low. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Okay. And I also feel that it would be better to have an actual unit as opposed to the in lieu fee. But in addition to that, for the for Mr. Zabalos, I have a question about the art donation for the Heritage Plaza. As you said that your company is large, you are involved with several projects all over town. Would you be willing to increase that art donation? I think it is woefully low. I do think, along with one of my colleagues, this is a pretty light amount of concessions. And I definitely don't think you can really buy any art for $5,000. So I think it's low. So would you be willing to consider donating more for the Heritage Plaza?
We would certainly consider it. I agree. The 5,000 is not horribly substantial amount. I think the original intent that we had was that we would do art on site so that there was a nexus, if you will, with our project and having on-site art, whether it was three-dimensional or it was, flat. And that, to me, would be our first choice. We were struggling with where to put it because of sort of open space or lack thereof at the street level where people could see. So, that would be our first choice. Secondly, if we have to revisit the amount that we donate to, the Heritage Park, we certainly can have that conversation.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowe. Commissioner Ellie Sullivan, did you want to get another question?
Why not take 2 bites at the apple, right? Quick one for city staff, conditions of approval, condition of approval 9. All vacant buildings on site shall be demolished within 6 months of project approval. It might just be because I haven't seen a similar housing project like this. Is that standard? And the reason I ask is I was happy to see that. I'd love to see it even sooner. But I like the fact that there's some requirement that they actually start the project once it's approved. Any context from city staff on that? I also did note that there is a requirement to put the sign up that also says what's coming, which I also appreciate because people often wonder what's coming in the neighborhood. So I'm glad that that is also a condition of approval. But for number 9, the 6-month period.
Yeah, that is a standard condition now that we've been tacking on just to try to deter the attractive nuisance element that can arise when a site's sitting vacant for a long time. And this site has been tagged by graffiti several times, and there's broken windows in the building too. So it's been a victim already. Yeah, no, I'm aware of that, which is why I was happy to see that. Is there typically again, in similar projects, are the developers chomping at the bit to start? Like, is it going to take 6 months before something starts or what have you seen? We could probably ask the applicant that. He'd probably be best qualified to answer that. I'm sure they want to go as quickly as possible. Applicant, again, not assuming any decision here, but should you secure an approval, how soon would construction start? Yeah, we would start as soon as feasible. We have to get a demolition permit in. We have to get land improvement plans. If we can get a demolition permit, we'll go ahead and demolish it as soon as possible. Our goal is to be building houses as quickly as possible. We usually start our land development when plans are approved, which is probably 6 months after a successful council hearing. And there's usually 4 to 6 months of land development, and then we start vertical construction after that. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I thank you, my fellow commissioners, for your questions. You definitely took some off my list. Thank you. I have some questions, some livability questions to do with the setbacks, because I know throughout the project, there's going to be exceptions to the minimum setback requirements. And I do have an issue with shortened driveways, because I understand there's 2-car driveways in each of these units, but people, often park in the driveway. So I'm wondering, what is the length of the driveway, especially in those houses that front Calaroga, because, as you drive around that neighborhood, those are some very deep driveways. And as far as continuity with the neighborhood, but also safety as you take a right on Calaroga, I'm wondering, Chris, if you or Mr. Zabalas, if you can tell me what the driveway length is, especially on those units there.
And I'm cheating by looking at my civil plans right now, and I might ask my civil engineer to chime in, but I believe those driveways are 20 feet long. Okay. But I do have Jerry Jensen Azar, our civils, on this just to confirm that number.
Yeah, if you can. And then also, if those are 20 feet, that's good. It was kind of hard to tell because they're so much shorter than the neighboring lots. It's hard to tell. And what about because I don't really have a problem with reduced front yards, because it's true, it's just a watering factor. It's, people aren't necessarily using them so much anymore. But what about the driveways on the cul-de-sacs? Because my understanding is there's no parking on the streets right on the cul-de-sacs there because of fire safety access. So what about the driveways on those units?
There's no parking on Court A or Court B, correct? I believe those are 20 feet as long as well. Okay. But Eddie, if Eddie Sue from RJ is on the phone, and Eddie, if you would just confirm, I don't have a dimension on the plan in front of me.
That is correct, Chris and Madam Chair. All of the driveways on the project are minimum 20 feet.
Okay, great. So that means they could park 2 cars in the driveway if they're not going to use their garage. That's your intent. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. I couldn't tell that from the way the setback minimum requirements were listed. And then the other question I have is, did you look at providing a park? Because, we're trying to keep people out of cars and things like that. And to allow people to walk to a park is desirable. And just looking at, what is it? Under the zoning ordinance, it says, in a residential neighborhood that there should be adequate playgrounds and parks and, public facilities. So I'm wondering what the public facility portion of this is, in your opinion.
Well, I think that we do have private backyards, so there is open space for every family. And then we do have that walking path around parcel A. And then at one end, there's benches and there's some overlook spots around there. We don't have a children's play structure at this point. It really is more of a meeting or gathering place. And we oriented it towards Calaroga because it's open and the residents of that area can use it as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. I just wanted to see. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And besides that, I think my questions got answered from my fellow commissioners. So thank you. I appreciate that. Let's move on to, barring any other comments from commissioners. Let's see. No. Okay. Let's move on to public comments for this item. Ms. Chan, if you wouldn't mind taking over, moderate the public comment section.
Thank you, Chair. If you wish to speak and you're using the Zoom application, please click the raise hand button. If you are dialing in, press *9 to raise your hand on the phone and use *6 to unmute yourself when called to speak. If you are streaming the meeting through Zoom on your computer, but dialing in via phone, please mute yourself so that there is no feedback sound during the meeting. If there is disruptive feedback or excessive noise during the meeting, your audio will be disabled. Chair, at this time, we have several hands. I'm going to call on the person with a phone number that ends in 341. Please unmute yourself.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, just to clarify, am I, the public comments is moved from the top to now, right? This is public comments about a non-agenda item?
No, sorry, that was earlier. This is public comments for this particular item.
That's what I thought. I'm for item number 3, so sorry. Please call me afterwards, Denise Chan, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. The number 3 has been continued. No. Oh, I'm sorry about the 3 is the minutes, right?
That's correct, Denise.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. So call me back later.
Well, when that item comes up, then you can raise your hand again. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Mm-hmm. Okay. The next person who's raised their hand, I have Ro Aguilar. Ro, can you unmute yourself, please?
Click it.
All right, I've got it. Thank you. I think you've all received my written comments, have you? Yes, okay.
Yes, we did.
Yes, okay, so I'm not going to read that, but I'm going to kind of give highlight it. So I'm not in favor of approving this general plan amendment or recommending approval. This is an ideal parcel to have mixed housing types on. Now, I'm not talking about higher density. I'm talking about mixed housing types. So have some duplexes, have some fourplexes, maybe, a house, a couple of apartments, strategically located, facing maybe Southland. We can work on that, so that there's a variety of affordable housing. We've got you have duplexes and fourplexes, the rents tend to be lower than, buying a home. So why have all single family homes on this parcel? Why not mix it up within the density constraints of the airport? 47 units, whatever that is, mix up the type of housing. Also, you're setting a framework here on this infill parcel. Low-income housing is very difficult to integrate into a single-family development. Again, this parcel allows good integration for lower-income housing units, owner-occupied. So why have just 2 moderate? Why not throw in 2 low-income as well? Very hard to find places to include low-income owner-occupied homes. And this parcel is ideal because of the location and where it's set. So please push a little on these developers. Get what the city really wants as discussed at the housing forum, and set a higher bar so that future developers know that the city does want a mix of housing on these infill parcels in particular, and that it sets an example as a model of inclusionary housing. You'd have moderate, low income, duplexes, single family housing. It would be a wonderful development. And it only takes this planning commission saying that's what you want, because it's a general plan amendment change. So those are my comments. Variety of housing types, a couple of low income owner occupied units. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Edward Bogue. Ed, please unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I'm Edward Bogue. I'm the president of the Southgate Area Homeowners Association. I was chair of the neighborhood task force. So we have looked at this concept of adding housing into our neighborhood already. And we've looked at this project. The original project we thought was too dense, and we knew it was too dense for the airport area, because that would really raise the density, and it was an increase in the use that would not be acceptable under those rules. We're very happy with the current plan. It meets the requirements of the Airport Land Use Commission rules and the Hayward Airport plan. It also meets our neighborhood plan, which we called for well, doesn't quite meet it, but we recommended that if we were to add these other parcels, were to switch over into some other use, we recommended RS zoning, which would have been 5,000 square foot homes, similar to, our existing neighborhood. So this is smaller lots, but the overall density works well. It fits the neighborhood. It fits the neighborhood plan. So we're really happy with this. And if you were to have smaller units, as it was suggested, you would still have the density with a project that doesn't have the same homes. So this is truly what we were looking for, since it was having to switch over, because it's very difficult to do commercial at this point, as you've noticed. And we have some ideas for what we could have done here, but they also work in other locations. So we're working on that too. And this is a very good location for this type of development. I think that's really our opinion, and that's from both groups have similar opinions. The only thing we may have been slightly concerned about was if there's no landscaping on the homes that back up against, no trees, for example, planned for the homes that back up against the existing homes of Southgate. But then again, there are no trees planted in the other yards either. what's very important to us too, to make this project in the neighborhood functional, is that each unit has 4 parking spaces. So there's 2 in the garage and 2 on every driveway. There's even a couple driveways that you could park more, it appears, but everyone has 4 spaces. That is similar or the same as the existing neighborhood. So, and even in our neighborhood, even with that, we have parking problems in our neighborhood. And we've heard of so many other developments where there are no additional parking spaces other than in the garage. And folks that live there find they can't invite people over. It doesn't really function because of what you saw on the plan.
Excuse me, Ed. Your time is up. Can you please wrap it up? Thank you.
Okay. I've pretty much said the key points. We do like the plan. I don't really care for glass in a garage door. They look really good and they're exciting, but you can also see what's in the garage. And that just seems like it's not appropriate for on Long Calaroga or maybe even in the development. But I do thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And I don't see any other speakers at this time.
Phone number for 341. We're still on item number 1. Would you like to speak on item number 1? If so, please unmute yourself. Caller with the phone number 341, if you'd like to speak on item number 1, go ahead.
No, I'm still on 3, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it, right, for public comment on this item. No other hands are going up at this time. So I will go ahead and close the public comment section for item number 1 and move on to commissioner comments at this time. And let's go back to my participant list and see who wants to start us off. Okay, how about Commissioner Okenda? Why don't you go ahead and start on the opinion section?
Thanks. I wanted to circle back and to this affordable housing question. I know that when I was able to speak with Chris and Avery in person, I noted that, this is an issue that's important to discuss. And certainly in the city of Hayward, we want to have as many on-site affordable housing units as possible. And because this PD is not sort of eligible under the protection of the Housing Accountability Act, SB 330, I do think it's important for the commission to be strong in sort of its advocacy for, getting the kind of compensation in community benefits that, would warrant this level of shift from, the general plan, et cetera. I think, overall, and I've said this before, but overall, I think this is a good development. It's balancing a lot of complexity with the Airport Land Use Commission's limitations. I read the report. I don't know if the rest of the city, if the planning commissioners have seen the ALUC report, the Airport Land Use Commission report on specifically what the policies are that had to be considered for this property. Basically what they did was take the median density of the surrounding single family neighborhoods and applied that as the policy for determining what was acceptable for this use. So, I think another body, just kind of have to work with it. And I understand the constraints. And so, I appreciate first and foremost how Chris and Avery, you have both been very forthcoming and thoughtful and responsive to the questions. So, I think overall, I would be willing to support this project today if we could have a conditional approval amendments to condition 11 that would say basically do not pay the in lieu fees and add, you know, if we can ask the developer agree to this, add a conditional approval in 11, where instead of paying in lieu fees, they just add an additional unit. I liked that rate. You brought up that idea. I'm fully in support of doing something like that. So thank you for mentioning that. I was on the same brain connection here on supporting affordable housing. And as for the art installation, I am open to other commissioners what you think. For me, as I just understood, and again, you know, Chris, you're really open with the considerations that you all have to make and the price differentials. So, you know, adding an additional unit on site for 5 affordable units at moderate, I think, you know, it does come at a cost. And, you know, so with that, I think maintaining just the $5,000 to the city and public art personally, I would be okay with that. I wouldn't want to ask more because that is a big consideration and I have to respect that. But I would like to see that because it's just important to be building more units. And this is an opportunity to do that and we can't pass it up. That's my opinion. Thank you for letting me share, and that's all my comments for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonilla.
I agree very much with everything that Commissioner Okenda said. I think that this is a good development. I'm fine with the design. I'm fine with the garage doors. I'm fine with all of that. But I'm not fine with the in lieu fee being paid. So I would like to see 5 affordable in the project. And I actually really want us to see if we can push to get 2 of these as low and 3 of them as moderate. You know, this project is asking for a significant amount of considerations. You know, I've been on this commission for, you know, several years, and I think that this is one of the projects that is asking for the most amount of considerations in probably quite a while. So, you know, if we're going to be providing them with these considerations, and I think that it's only fair to ask for 2 of these 5 units to be low and 3 of them to be moderate. I agree with Commissioner Okenda. I'm fine with the public art contribution, but I really want to see, like I said, 5 units, 2 at low and 3 at moderate. And if we can't get there, then I have a different opinion about what I want to see with public art and the contribution there. Those are my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lowe.
Well, I think if we continue with Commissioner Okenda's proposal of no in lieu fee, but to have the additional unit, I do think that the art donation should be increased. However, if we go with Commissioner Bonilla's proposal of 2 low and 3 moderate, then I would say if they're willing to do that, the developer is willing to do that, then I would say that the $5,000 donation is sufficient. I just think the considerations for just having 1 more unit just aren't enough. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellie Sullivan.
Appreciate the comments from the developer, and overall, I think this is it's a pretty good project. It takes into balance a lot of trade-offs around the site size, the requirements around the Airport Land Use Commission requirements as it relates to fitting into the other neighborhood, the housing size, whatnot, and obviously there's a trade-off between density and parking around lot size and number of houses. And so I think the project as it stands right now is striking a good balance there. Style and design wise, I think it's nice, looks good. You know, it looks pretty standard for Bay Area housing, and so no complaints there. And, you know, overall, I think it fits in well with the neighborhood. So I like what I'm seeing. As far as the benefits, you know, that's where I'm sort of struggling with this project a little bit in the positioning, both in, you know, city staff and also by the developer, is that they're making all these concessions when in reality, well, okay, you have trees that are a little bit bigger, but probably not going to make a huge difference. So that to me is completely negligible. $5,000 for art, also negligible when you're talking about 47 houses times 800,000 per house. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made here. So that 5,000 to me seems extremely low. And then, not wanting to put that marginal unit, which is, again, you still owe 0.7 of a unit, not just putting it instinctively in that project, but instead choosing to pay the in lieu fees, for me, is problematic. And so I'm happy to hear that. And it sounds like the developer is willing to move on that fifth unit. And I think that based on what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners, it sounds like that's something that we are all very much encouraging and in support of. So, I'd like to see that condition of approval, I guess it's number 11, change to include the fifth unit to be on site. The trade-off between medium to low or the amount of money that we are asking the developer to voluntarily contribute to the art fund for Heritage Plaza, I think there can be some negotiation there, but the developer seemed to himself acknowledge that amount was woefully low. So I think that should almost be a given, that they contribute more just for their own civic involvement in the city of Hayward and the pride that they'll be able to bring, knowing that they supported this public art. And then I'd also like to see that fifth unit on site. So what that number looks like as far as art, I would defer to the city what an appropriate and meaningful contribution would be that would actually allow the purchase of an installation. But I would like to see that increased.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you. So these homes will hopefully be here for more than 100 years. And that means that it's establishing the form for this neighborhood that's going to be redeveloped as the years go by. And I would argue that this architectural form is incongruent with the existing homes that are there, which I don't necessarily think is a challenge or a problem, because I think that this infill development could be really well designed. And I think it could take an architectural form that is better than conventional and really kind of takes a leadership position and puts architectural form in Hayward consistent with other communities in the Bay Area. So I really don't like the way these things look. And I would like to see the additional money expended. I don't really see the point of adding a fifth affordable home at the cost of $400,000, if I understood that correctly. I'd rather see that go into enhanced architecture. And I'd prefer not to see an art contribution and that invested in better architecture. And moving forward, I'd love to see a process so that single family homes could go through a design process that's really kind of community driven, and maybe the best and the brightest in the city of Hayward could voice their opinion on these forms. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldstein.
Thank you, Chair Roche. Well, I certainly admire Commissioner Stevens sticking to his guns and talking about those things that are important to him. But I have to say that I kind of disagree. I actually concur with my other commissioners. I would like to see that fifth unit made affordable. I don't think it has to be the low. I actually concur with Commissioner Bonilla that I forgot how we put it, 3 low and 2 moderate. If that's the formula, I would definitely go along with that. But I would also like to see higher art contribution made to the city, and not, I hope that doesn't come across as like some kind of a penalty. I'm hoping the developer is going to look at this as these 2 concessions as a matter of the heart, in that, we're not just called the heart of the Bay because where we are. Hayward really, I think in my mind, really represents a powerful vision for the entire Bay Area. The diversity of people, the diversity of incomes, I could go on and on. The point is, Hayward is a very special place. And I think for making this major change to the general plan and turning it into a plan development, I think it's worth stepping up and making a contribution to the city and her residents. So that's what I would be for. Again, I like the design. The concept is good. The location is fantastic. I like it that D.R. Horton and Mr. Zabalos are involved in this, because you've got years of experience making these developments happen. And for that reason, I feel assured that the project is going to move forward rapidly. And for those reasons, I'm in favor.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and give my opinion, then I'll circle back around. I see Commissioner Lowe, you still have your hand up, so I'll come back to other comments that commissioners might have. Oh, you took it down. Okay, there you go. I thank you everyone for your comments. I am in agreement. I think to the caller's point, we did recently hold this joint session with the city council, and we all agreed we wanted to be aggressive on affordable housing. And so I was pleased to see that the developer was including the 4 units. But I agree with my fellow commissioners. It would be great to see that 5th unit, and I would be in favor of I think it was 3 moderate, 2 low. I don't know where the calculation is, and I'll be interested to see my commissioners' motions and amendments on that one. But I think that would add a greater value than, I'm not sure that the art is necessarily the trade-off here, but I think that would, sort of satisfy where we're all trying to head. Because I appreciate that caller's comments that, they're holding us to task, because we have tried to hold the city council to task as well. And this is one development where we can push a little bit and ask for that additional unit and to break up the kind of affordable housing units that we're asking for. Because it's true, there are definitely some concessions we're being asked for here, or, the city's being asked for here. And I think this is a good opportunity to balance that with contributing a little bit more to the affordable housing in the city, which we obviously greatly need, and everybody is aware of that. I appreciate Commissioner Stevens' comments. It's so hard for me, because I look at it and I'm like, it looks like a nice, neighborhood to me. I'm not an architect, so I don't have the ability to look at that, the way Commissioner Stevens is asking. And we have talked in the past about some sort of design review board where, when a whole new community like this is being put in, that perhaps there should be that kind of review before we see it, potentially with some input on the architecture. But for now, I think some of the discussion that happened with Commissioner Stevens and the applicant, maybe some of the paint choices could help with the garage doors, and maybe painting the facade of the whole entryway would bring out the eye to the entryway in general, and the door, and maybe something like that would help. But for me, the architecture is fine. It looks fine. I don't know. I don't have a huge opinion about it. And I do like what you've done with the green space to bring in the other neighbors as well. So, the other neighborhood as well. So if we could make these concessions with the affordable housing amendment, then I think or the ordinance, I think I'd be okay with that. And with that, I will entertain motions for my commissioners. Let's see, unless Commissioner Ali Sullivan, did you have another comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, in relation to the need, Jeremy, can you remind us, as far as moderate to low when it comes to affordable housing and needs in the city, can you remind us of what that sort of breakdown looks like? Where is the need greatest? Because I'm curious just if that is indeed something that we want to make a point in the motion or not here.
Good question. Christina Morales, who's our housing manager, did not attend the call this evening. I don't know if Commissioner Okenda, I know you were aware of kind of the housing analysis that was done. I can't speak with any sort of knowledge on the breakdown. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to defer that. But I did hear that the moderate income is the area of the greatest demand in the need that is currently being undermet throughout the city.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. I can expand upon what Jeremy just said. At moderate income, we're only about 33% of where we're supposed to be at per the RENA numbers. We're at about 75% for low income, and we're only at 42% for very low income. So moderate is far and away the one where we're the lowest as compared to where we need to be. But very low is the second lowest, and then low.
Okay. All right. I mean, I guess my thoughts on that, based on sort of what our current needs or what our current numbers are and where we are at the moment, it would seem like it sounds like the preference here would be for the moderate units. So I'm sort of leaning in that direction of desiring that they be allocated as moderate, unless other commissioners have other thoughts or feel very strongly about it.
Well, it looks like Commissioner Kenda might have a little something to say, but maybe he perhaps can answer a little bit of that as well. Did you want to chime in about that?
That was all. All I wanted to just say was that, for me, I think I have heard, the sort of city staff loud and clear on the needs for the different numbers. I'm always one in principle, like until we are at 100% of low-income affordable units, I want more low-income affordable units. And, I think the people who are more vulnerable, very low income folks, tend to be the folks most at risk of displacement. And so I think they need to be the priority, and that's just what we see in the displacement numbers. So that's my own personal knowledge of housing and the housing work that I do, that I'm bringing out. But that's kind of also my opinion. And so just that, I think I lean in favor of Commissioner Bonilla's proposal.
Okay, great, thank you. And I did have another question. As far as the arena numbers, is that home ownership numbers, or is that just housing availability numbers? Jeremy, do you have an opinion on that?
Those are the total number of households, the housing supply.
So ownership or rental.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, because is most of the low income rental at this point?
We've been seeing overwhelming, most of the projects that have come before the commission were multifamily, a lot of rental projects. We've seen some townhomes that have come forward, not a lot of single family lately.
Okay, because I definitely see a value in home ownership for low income here. It makes it a unique opportunity for us to request that kind of housing. Okay, Commissioner, or Ali Sullivan, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess my question would be for the developer, for Mr. Zabalos, if he is indeed willing to make the fifth unit, as opposed to in lieu fees, one of the on-site units. I'm curious to hear from the developer, and then I'd also like to hear from him what number on the public art he feels would be an appropriate amount.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. I would turn my video on, but I think I've been stopped by the host, which is fine.
Jeremy, maybe you can take care of that so Chris can continue the conversation.
Here we go. Looks like I've got, all right.
There we go.
Not that you want to continue to see my face. So I hear you loud and clear, and it, the fifth unit, we're fine with including it. It's, as you know, it's a financial, amount, and we realize it's a general plan amendment. We have to step to the plate and do what we hear loud and clear. Adding that fifth unit, I would ask that we consider adding all 5 of those as moderate. I hear all the comments, and we'll do whatever Planning Commission and Council decides. But making them moderate, certainly helps us in some ways. And then the art, I guess, more than willing to bump up that by, whatever X it needs to be to make that substantial. But I would ask that you balance that with going down to the low units, because the low units are definitely sort of a big financial hit, adding a unit, making a moderate. And so, that's really what I ask, is we're happy to do whatever package works the best, but asking for everything, certainly, it makes it more difficult for us.
We could make the tree smaller.
Thank you.
That was a joke.
I know the landscape architect in Hayward well, and I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bonilla, are you, let's see, did you have another comment, or are you ready to make a motion?
I am ready to make a motion.
Let's hear it.
All right, so I move this project and staff's recommendation with the amendment that we we change up section 11. So we're not going to be contributing that 0.3 in terms of the additional in lieu fee, but we're going to require that there's 5 affordable built in, 2 at low and 3 at moderate. And that's it. I'm not changing the art requirements or anything else. I think putting the requirements around the built-in affordable, the on-site affordable, putting the requirement at 2 low and 3 moderate income is I think very reasonable for this very large general plan amendment we're making tonight. So that's my motion.
I'd like to second.
Oh, I don't know who got it. I think Commissioner Goldstein got in there first as the second.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Goldstein, I think you got in there first. Sorry, everyone. It's hard. Okay, so Commissioner Goldstein has the second. Okay, discussion on the motion. Anyone? No?
Just for clarity, if I may, that this conditional approval amendment here is taking away all of the in lieu fee, the fractional 0.7 and the 0.3, so that full in lieu fee is going away. And in place of that, it is a 5th unit. And then you're saying 2 of those units low income, 3 of them moderate income. Just so I'm clear on what that is.
All right, it looks like Commissioner Bonilla, that's how you see it. And Commissioner Goldstein, you're fine with that clarification. Okay. Okay, and I don't see any other hands up for discussion on the motion. So let's move on to a vote. Commissioner Denise, let's see. There's a motion on the table by Commissioner Bonilla, seconded by Commissioner Goldstein, that the Planning Commission recommend the council approve the proposed recommendation. With the proposed general plan amendment, with an amendment that the section 11 wording is strikes the proposed in lieu fee, adds a 5th affordable unit, making that 3 moderate units and 2 low income units. Does that sound right, everyone? Okay, I don't know if I worded that properly, but Denise, did you get that?
Yes, I did. Joe, did you get that?
Yes, they're just moving staff recommendation with an amendment to condition of approval number 11.
Removing all fractional in lieu fees, and we're adding a 5th affordable housing unit.
Right, and the breakdown is 3 moderate and 2 low.
2 low and 3 moderate. All right, is that acceptable?
Yep, everyone's shaking their head. The motioner and the seconder.
Okay, here we go. Commissioner Ali Sullivan.
Just wanted to thank the developer for their recognition here on the housing needs in the city of Hayward, and appreciate the discussion tonight. Happy to vote yes on this project.
Thank you. Oh, I have one question. In the motion, nothing has changed for the art contribution. Is that correct?
Right. That's right. We didn't change that.
Right. Thank you.
But it remains correct at the existing level.
It stays status quo.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Bonilla.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldstein.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lowe.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Okenda.
Yes, happy to support this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens.
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Roche. I'm sorry, Chair Roche.
Thank you. Yes, and I also wanted to thank the applicant, and we appreciate you working with us on the housing issue. I think everyone agrees this is a good thing for the city. So thank you, and my vote is yes.
Thank you. So we have 6 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you, and the motion passes. And thank you, everybody, for your really interesting comments about this tonight. I think we ended up with a great project. Mr. Zabalis, I hope you think so too. Thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, great. Okay, so let's move on to our last item. Since we've skipped number 2, we're moving on to the approval of the minutes. And I think before we do that, there is a comment, the public comment on the minutes. Denise, do you want to moderate that and pull her back in.
Before we go to speaker, I wanted to make sure there is an amendment to the minutes that was sent out this afternoon, and I want to make sure all the planning commissioners saw that. Yes, we're good.
Yeah, okay. It looks like lots of head shakes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call on the phone number with the last three numbers, 341. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I appreciate Denise appealing or correcting the minutes. And all I want to say, I unfortunately missed the public comments, but in relation to the minutes and the Parcel 6 meeting on October 14th, I would like the commissions to consider the University Court Neighborhood Association desires that we be heard regarding the Parcel 6 development, because we have been ignored basically since 2017, and it, as well as the Park Heights development on 2nd Street, is adversely affecting our neighborhood in a very unsafe and dangerous way.
Thank you, Ms. Go. Are you finished?
Well, what am I being clear? I am requesting that our neighborhood association be considered. We don't know when the public hearing is, but before this project is approved, we have not been heard or recognized for our concerns of the safety in our neighborhood. So is that clear what I'm requesting, Chair?
Yeah, I think that, this comment, I think, didn't go to the minutes in the end. It really was a public comment in general for future items. And I think that you will have to watch, when these items come up in the agenda item that you're talking about, so that you can make these comments at that time. And like you said, we don't know when this is going to come back up. So I ask that you watch, and then hopefully, I think your neighborhood gets noticed when this is going to come back up as well. So at that time, you're going to want to make similar comments. So yes, your comments are clear, and we appreciate you calling in.
But you did receive our written comments under public comments, right? Even though I missed the vote.
Yes, previously, when we talked about it previously.
Okay,
I believe
great.
so. I need to go back and look, but
and the emails. Yes, we did receive the emails.
Okay, great. Because I want you to know we are not on the mailing list, because they've said there's no impact on our community, which is why I'm using this avenue.
I see. So perhaps that's something, Jeremy, are you there? Because maybe there can be, maybe we can send out notice to that neighborhood. Can you pipe in on that?
Yeah, I think without getting into too far, because this is not an agenda item that we can really dive into much, we receive the comments, and if we have the caller's contact information, we can certainly add them as stakeholders, so that way when the mailing does go out, that all of those stakeholders that had requested to be included, we can include that. But talking about that project tonight is not appropriate.
Right. Thank you. Yes. Did you get that? I think that's the thing, is you just need to get noticed before this before it comes back up.
Yes, please. And you do have all my contact information, Jeremy and commissioners.
Thank you.
It's in the document.
Thank you, Ms. Coon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Mm-hmm. Good night.
Okay. Denise, I did have one amendment to the meeting minutes, and I'm sorry that I didn't tell you ahead of time. But on one of the, it's really minor. But while we're doing this, I'll give you my comments. I will. Do you want me to just email you afterwards? Because it just had to do. It said in the meeting minutes regarding the parcel the caller was just talking about, that I said that it would be good to have the central location for drop off of packages. But what I actually did was criticize that idea, because people would want their packages delivered to their door.
Yes, you can email it to me.
Thank you. Okay.
I'll make that correction.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
So besides that, as long as no one else has a comment on the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes with the comments that I will email to?
Motion to approve with the amendments to them already discussed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is right.
Thank you. All right, Denise, we have a motion to move the minutes made by Commissioner Okenda, seconded by Commissioner Bonilla.
Thank you. Commissioner Ali Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Okenda.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Chair Roche.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to commission reports. Jeremy, do you have anything for us tonight? Oh, sorry, yeah.
The only quick report that I have is just as a friendly reminder that our next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting is not on November 11th, which is the second Thursday of the month, because that is Veterans Day. It has been pushed to November 18th. At that point, we will have the Berkeley Farms item continued, along with maybe another item or not, possibly. But just as a reminder that it is on November 18th, on Thursday, November 18th.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, commissioner announcements. Anyone? Nothing tonight. Okay, well then this ended up being a shorter meeting than I thought, because that second item, which I thought was going to be huge, got moved. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's watching, and thank you for everyone's work tonight. I appreciate everyone tonight, and thank you. I think we did good work tonight.
Yeah, go team. High five.
Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.